All right. We'll get cooking in just a minute. Let people get here. How we doing, Mr. Jamie?
Doing great.
Mr. Jamie Blackburn.
Yeah.
So what's happening down in North Carolina? You're in North Carolina, right?
Right. Cary, North Carolina, which is right between Raleigh and Durham.
Right
Beautiful
on.
day, beautiful sunny day. Very cold for us, but I think it's very cold for a lot of the country.
Oh, what is weird here? I
Like,
see something. There we go. I just want to make sure there was some kind of weird thing. Yeah, it was a little. It's been freezing up here in
yeah.
Maryland, in
People aren't
DC.
playing golf this morning. Most mornings, people are on the golf course when I leave, even during the winter. But no one on this morning.
No one on this morning.
Nope.
It is kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. Yeah, we got some snow. I was traveling from Kentucky. You know this. I was traveling from Kentucky, and it was crazy snow up there. I say it wasn't absolutely nuts, but it was cold, like 10 degrees in Kentucky. So
Wow.
yeah, how cold? What'd you say it was there?
You know what? I'm not sure what the temperature is, but it's got to be in the low teens at least. Let's see how good I am with my phone. 27 degrees. So
Crazy.
not even close.
And we got Janet Half here. Hey, Janet, I gave you the ability to unmute. Do you have a mic on your side? Let's see if you there, Janet? Hey. I'm not sure she has a mic or not.
She's got her cup of coffee and thinking,
That's right. Make sure we have this going right. All right, put this here to everyone. That's good. Eric just popped in. Hey, Eric. I don't know if you have a mic that you can chat with mic and speakers. Yeah. Hey.
Yes, I do.
Awesome, man. Where are you out of?
Research Triangle Park, North Carolina.
Get out of here.
Yeah,
That's right where Jamie's from.
yeah.
So yeah, you guys are neighbors. You can throw rocks at each other if you want
Yeah.
to.
Not that close, but pretty close.
Well, how far is that from you?
It's less, Eric, what's it? Maybe between Cary and RTP, it's got to be less than 4 miles, maybe 6.
something like that. Yeah, because I live in Cary and work in RTP.
There you go.
Wow, that is wild. Well, welcome aboard, man. And we're going to do it's a little bit different today, so you can keep your mic. You can just shout at us and everything, because I'm not sure how many folks are actually going to attend this, because we're doing this update for it's kind of a different kind of a briefing for what we normally do. So, but we want to welcome everybody. We'll be doing live from NAICC in San Antonio. I got with me Jamie Blackburn. He's the director of iAdvantage, and Daniel Thompson's on site. We're figuring out how we can get to him. This is live, and you know it's live. No AI here, Jamie.
That's right.
While we're going to get Daniel on, tell us a little bit about iAdvantage and what you're doing, and then we'll get into some of the things that are happening in NAICC and what that's all about.
Sure. So we were founded in 03, a software company. We came out of a science company. We have a sister science company. It's a group of scientists who are heavily at the same event with Daniel and hopefully telling him to hurry up and get online. And Global AG. And we have been in this business almost 30 years, collecting data, managing data, reporting on data. And almost all of our data is for large sponsors that ends up going to some sort of government agency. And that instigated us to be asked to look at coming into to doing more with government agencies. But we feel like we do one thing very well, and that's besides being here in Cary and being able to write software, is that software really serves a distinct purpose.
Awesome, man. And yeah, we've done a lot of these briefings with you talking about data collection, so we appreciate you joining us. I do want to welcome everybody from the USDA and EPA, FDA folks that are coming. I know there's a group of people that we're recording this for, so that we could get that to them, because they had a meeting right now. We have Sheila here. Sheila, you can unmute as well if you'd like to. Tell us where you're from.
Hi, I'm with EPA out of Houston.
In Houston.
Houston.
In
Yes.
Houston. Okay.
Houston.
My hearing's not working. Well, welcome aboard out of
He's also
Houston.
a Ravens fan, and he doesn't want to talk about Houston right now.
No, we're going to go at it, Sheila. In a few minutes.
Yes, it's been an interesting week.
Yeah, it's pretty. I bet it's on fire there. So awesome. Real quick, disclaimer: this is not endorsed by NAICC or GSA or any other agency. Your participation is voluntary, and engagement by you guys is not an endorsement to purchase from any vendor like iAdvantage. So I got that out of the way. That's what GSA makes us say, and then we want to make sure with NAICC that for that too. Tell us a little bit about this, Jamie. What are we going to be talking about today?
Sure. Just a little bit of background on NAICC, and I'll explain why the connection I think is so critical. But we're pretty excited each year about getting to the NAICC sessions. And I don't know if Eric, Sheila, or others have actually heard more about it, but we're going to make sure you're aware of that they're out there and the things they talk about that basically preface the whole process of doing science, collecting on science, and giving science reports back.
So yeah, we'll get into that a little bit. I am getting the handouts that I can pop in here if you guys want to download the presentation and iAdvantage capabilities for you. We love participation. You can pop things in the Q&A. If you have something you don't want everybody and their mother to know, send it to info@iAdvantagesoftware.com. Because we just want to make sure that you guys get involved, and we'll unmute people if you have the ability to unmute as well for Eric and Sheila. And Janet doesn't have the mic thing working, so we'll do that. All right. So tell us a little bit about NAICC and what it is and what it's about.
Yeah. So NAICC stands for National Alliance of Independent Crop Consultants, and since 1978, it's been a group that gets together. Basically outside of the growing season, probably, that are scientists who want to talk about the challenges and the success and best practices and so forth of doing science out in the field. You know, the whole ag industry is challenged because our view of how we do the science has to actually be out in the real world, and it's been challenging as a technical company to provide what we call this edge, right? These distinct linkages that keep the science pure, high quality, but yet can go out to a middle of America and basically be connected onto the cloud. So we've been challenged with this some time ago. And in some ways, a lot of people call it distributed clinical trials, such like that. We've been doing that. And NAICC talks about all of these things and always has. So they have their annual meeting this week. It actually started on the 15th. I guess it goes to the end of the week. I think the heaviest of it, and probably why my friend Daniel hasn't come on yet, is today. This is actually a big day for them. It is a professional society. They get together. They all know each other. But more so, even though there are a lot of them are as crop consultants that are scientists, they're really challenged to be competitive because the sponsors are there as well. And I know the EPA is there as well. So it's very much an inclusive group to get together once a year, generally in January. I think next year, if I remember right, they're going to the West Coast. They're going to go to California.
All right. And so why do you guys attend?
Yeah, so for us, it's a great way to get a heartbeat once a year of what's going on with the people who use our software and the people who use our software to report back to agencies and such like that. Because remember, what we do is trial management software for GLP compliance. And so because of those things, we're able to meet with the people who are using our software, trying to collect the science, the people who are designing the trials and such, and want that quality and that security. So we go out and we go there, and for all intents and purposes, we do a lot of listening because also the sponsors are there telling about what they want to do. So we feel like it's the one way to stay in tune and not interrupt them, because there's a good chunk of the year that these people can't be interrupted.
Now, when you
There's also the chance that the NAICC gives training. So for instance, a few of our colleagues are making sure that we know what the most recent is on GLP, carbon markets, and really all new technologies in agriculture. If you look at Internet of Things and drones and such, that's going to be a continuing subject. We have one gentleman on the West Coast on wheat who does amazing things with his drones that saves 85% use of pesticides.
wow.
So we have to be on top of what is happening all the time. And this is probably the best way for us to get a collective, again, of those sponsors, to those trial managers, who then distribute out to those field sites to do good science, good quality science, to get quality data.
I love it. So, and when you say sponsors, those are folks like...
Yeah, we all know the big guys, Bayer and BASF and such like that. Yeah, there's a lot, but there's some big boys, that's for sure. And we've been dealing with them for years.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about some of the key areas that they're bringing up that you've heard so far. We're trying to get, by the way, everybody, we're trying to get Daniel on, and I'm not sure this is live. It's not AI. That's all I can tell you.
Although we'll work on that next, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
So, but we're trying to get Daniel on because he's supposed to give us a live update. So, we will be talking a little bit about some of the history from the communications that you've had with a lot of the EPA, FDA folks, right?
That's right.
So
we've been trying to figure out what are the key items that they're going to be talking about, and what are the things we hear all year long, but what are the things that they're going to be talking distinctly during these sessions. And the first one is, of course, everyone knows this, the reason that we don't have enough time. We're running out of time to do things like help the growing population needing more from these farmers, while allowing that the farmers do it the best way, cheaper, better, faster, and more importantly, protecting the environment. We also have to deal with things like water scarcity, the weather change and global warming, and then finally, floods and droughts. We're building so much, we're creating all kinds of new problems, right? Because with growth comes its offsets. So
when you're talking to folks with EPA, how does this intersect with what EPA and FDA are looking at?
Yeah, and so I think it's important to know. We were talking recently about a paper, I think it was in 2018, but the National Academy of Sciences put together, and they said, what are these key recommendations for the coming future, and why does it matter? And the first thing that I want to point out is they didn't see the federal government solving it. They didn't see private and commercial groups solving it. They saw it as a partnership between these two. And they came up with some key areas, which we probably all have heard about. The first one is we have to increase our efficiency on how we get better crops and improve on crops, even the product that comes to help the people growing those crops. We have to have more sensors, more biosensors, more things to watch what's going on in the field, so we get more feedback. And that leads to our next one, which is the data science aspect. We need data science to be much more prevalent in the agriculture industry, as it has become in the other life sciences. It is an integral part of how we're going to get there and get there smarter. Then there's gene editing. That's coming for agriculture, just as it has, as I said, for other life sciences. And then finally, the microbiome. That's a hot topic, because the microbiome is being addressed as a new way to perhaps address much of what's going on with pesticides and such, and management, and even how we can help out the water better.
So for the folks that are here, Elvira, welcome aboard. I gave you the ability to unmute as well. Where are you from, Elvira, if you have a mic? You there, Elvira? I don't know if she has a mic.
She's having her coffee and saying, why is this guy asking me?
That's right. Why are you trying to bring me in on this? So just real quick, how Eric, you're here, and Sheila, you're here. How familiar are you with the NAICC, and have you have any involvement in that so far?
I haven't had any involvement in it. I'm just learning right now.
Sure.
Oh, good.
Excellent. And
The
how
same
about,
for me. I have not had any involvement. I just saw that and I thought it was really curious. It got my attention, especially when you're looking at collaborating between agencies, which isn't an easy thing to do, but if you're using the same software, that's huge.
Right.
That's huge.
it's funny you bring that up, Sheila, because we have a couple things to talk about that. And we are supposed to be on site with Daniel Thompson. He can't get on right now. So let's roll through a couple of things that you brought that up. Sheila, let's talk about how you collect and get your data, because if it was all on the same system, it would be great for everybody, right? So this is how when we've done our briefings in the past, we did a conglomeration of the data. We have folks that are still using paper as their primary form of collecting data. Now you'll notice that not all these add up to 100%. However, because they could pick more than one, right? So obviously different studies, different things, right, Jamie?
That's right.
So, but the vast majority of EPA and FDA folks are still using spreadsheets as a primary way of collecting data, which we know creates a problem, don't we, Jamie?
That's right. It's a challenge. That's for sure.
Yep. So, and then the other is a survey tool. That's what eStudy's about, and that's what you do, Jamie. So we'll talk a little bit about your tool in a minute. And then other folks are using professional contractors with the survey tools that they have to do those. But in the field, oftentimes, when you're pushing things out, first of all, we have to understand the value of the data and that we're collecting. And so when they're doing this, tell us a little bit about how important the design of it is. I think
Sure.
that's the most important thing that you got.
So eStudy has been around a long time, and it's funny how right away we want the software to solve the problem, but we actually feel like, especially with study managers and trial managers, that when they're designing that, they have to take some responsibility right up front. Nothing's worse than something that's not planned out. And we feel like this is where we spend a significant amount of time consulting at time and advising our new software customers. We've recently just added a new customer in. And we've spent a lot of time explaining them how much time they have to think this through right from the get-go. Collecting data is expensive. Collecting bad data is just throwing money into the wind. So it's so important that the data analysis that you're expecting to do later starts with this really important aspect of design up front. No different. For instance, my wife's doing my kitchen now. And the design was way more important other than let's just start breaking down walls.
So, and we'll get to the back end of how expensive that data can be. And we actually have a survey from EPA as well for that. That'll be coming up. So so once you get the data, then you got to manage it. So here's what we found out from this is that 84% are managing it in Excel, and you'll see that there are different studies, like we said. You can have multiple platforms that you're using. And I think, Sheila, what you said is great, because there isn't a universal process or a universal system, which is part of the problem. And it's very difficult to get that, by the way, Sheila. It's difficult to do that as an enterprise-wide solution, which is why you don't have it. But some of folks are using custom management software. We've talked to many people that have created something in under their own tent, right? Right, Jamie?
That's right. Yep. Very, very common. We hear words like data pumps and all kinds of situations. For us, we just feel like it's a critical question, especially if you're in that point where right now you're planning to get at the right software package. You better ask them about this part, because that becomes a key piece. We spent years, and that's why we went to the cloud, was because of all the issues resulting in, now that you have the data, how do you manage it once it's there?
Yep. So let's talk about what you guys do, and we're still working to get with Daniel on here, but to give him just a high level overview of what's important for them.
So the key is, no matter what the strategy, we started the design as being an upfront aspect. The key is that your strategy needs to be in place about how you're going to do these things. Now, if I was writing an RFP or an RFI to ask some vendors about how to do things, whether it's Microsoft Excel or whoever you're going to use, I would ask them these questions, because these are the questions we're asked on how we come about giving them. But we always start, again, with the design and the strategy, because you only get one chance, right? It's a measure twice, cut once. As we've said before, nothing is worse than you plan a big rollout to ask people all kinds of questions that will result in this great data for data analysis, and you do it wrong, and it's Monday when you're supposed to be doing it. Is there anything worse than getting a second email? Whoa, wait, I have to ask you it differently. So it's very important that you have this strategy right up front, along with the responsibility.
So, and there's some best practices here. You don't have to go through each one of these in the handouts. Let me make sure you guys have the handouts, and we'll pop that back in. Anything that you really want as a takeaway that you see an intersection with what's happening at NAICC?
No,
here?
It's just very important to think these through. Whether you're doing a survey, whether you're writing an email to 5 people, you should spend these type of this kind of basics of what we've learned over years. And we're happy to share these in any way to help you out. We've had several people we actually kind of go through even their surveys. But the key is that you think this through right up the front, and that you do it. And some of the things are quite simple, right? We've all learned that address is really cool when it comes from Google, because they already know your address. But if people put in their own address, who knows where they put stuff, right?
Yeah, that's true. So a lot of that has to do with the design up front, like you said. And you're also, I think one of the differences, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're using scientific methodology to do your data collection, so it tightens it up a bit.
That's right. That's right. A scientist will spend a lot of time thinking through what they want to test, what their hypothesis, what they're going to try to bring back. And in most cases, the scientists should know what the data they get back. And it should be the anomalies of surprise, not a bunch of, well, let's see what came back.
Yep. And here's another component that is coming from all around the government, right? Not just EPA, but this whole FAIR idea. What does FAIR mean?
Yeah, sure. So FAIR is a new standard for scientific data in all life sciences that should be considered for the future. And the reason is we're collecting so much data, and we can't afford that every time a new group, a new generation of people come out, that we have to collect the data again, right? So we should be learning and stacking these on top of each other constantly. Well, is there anything worse than wanting to know what they were thinking when they asked and they don't have any associated data with it, right? And so what it is this metadata capability is going to be a lot more descriptive of, hey, I'm asking for this value, and I'm asking for this value based on this knowledge. And I'm asking for this value based on this knowledge because these are the potential answers. And if there's an answer outside this range, I'd like it to be that. Well, I just described a 10-character field or a 2-character field. And yet you go, well, Jamie, where are you going to get all that? Well, this is what FAIR is trying to propose. Is so not only when you're asking for the data, you're describing what it is you're collecting. The data scientist 5 years from now can find the data useful and can apply it to his models.
And we're seeing that happen more and more.
More and more.
More and more
right?
throughout the day.
Because we don't all have time to take an email or phone call every time someone who might get the data later. And we don't want them to make a mistake on the origination.
Now, you mentioned applying the scientific methodology because you guys started as scientists, right?
That's right. This was built by scientists for scientists, our product. And so the first one is you always define the problem or the data requirement. You design a process to answer that, and you manage that process. Because with our product, we actually, and these are things you should look for in a product, you should know when you release it on Monday morning what it is Monday afternoon. You should be able to check into it. And that's where this review, communicate, and report data, because we're not collecting data just for this is fun. We're collecting data because it has a purpose. And chances are your boss is going to ask you on Tuesday, how did that Monday rollout go?
And some of the impact of the data that you're collecting is so timely, especially with crops and sometimes weather-related issues that could be coming, if you freezes or storms.
Applying pesticides. It's
yeah.
It's a very integral piece that there's a time base to it. And not only that, there isn't time to go back and say, oh, no, what I meant was, because that kills what we call the compliance, right? Part of the validation is we shouldn't allow people just to put in whatever they want. It needs to be uniform. Quality
Absolutely.
data is what we're striving for.
And you're not the only one who thinks this, Jamie Blackburn, because guess what? 93% of
Yeah.
folks in the FDA and EPA are tired of scrubbing bad data. And
That's
that's
right.
why, so you gotta, this is universal, I think, throughout the government as
That's
well.
right. It's about that practice of good scientific method, because it used to be we could accept data from someone else, maybe a summary, right? But now we care about data provenance, right?
Ooh.
Provenance says, hey, here's where the data came from. Even, we talked about AI. AI's critical role is to give you a good answer, but it's also to tell you where that answer came from. And so this scrubbing data is going to become a bigger and bigger issue. And if you today need tools to simplify the amount of data, it's going to keep going, folks, because the data growth in this country, or in this world, really is, it's just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
More data centers being built every day, it seems like, and having to find new ways to do things. And I'm terrible at it. I keep every picture I have. I don't like to delete any pictures.
Well, you're part of the data problem then.
That's right, I am.
So designing, obviously very important, is what's coming.
We talk about these slides in the reference to if you're choosing a product to do this data collection. The designing aspect is a key aspect up front. You should look for the product to allow you to design, and design it uniformly across. One of the problems we have is we have crop consultants, for instance, scientists in the field, who are collecting data based on multiple different people who do field trials. They don't want to have to explain to each other, and they do it for many sponsors. So there needs to be a uniform way to do things. And it needs to all start in the design phase.
And then we talked about collecting, and we'll get to communicating in just a minute.
Right.
So
and collecting is those people at the NAICC this week. They're out there probably talking a lot about the troubles they have or the benefits they have of, like, the new Starlink capabilities of being able to be connected. We actually provide offline and online. So we would tell you, you should put this into your RFP if you were selecting or your choice selection if you were trying to figure out the right product of software. Mm-hmm. You also should be compliant. And that's somewhere we've actually worked quite hard, because we have scientists who started our software product. Compliance was very important. The regulatory aspects were critical to making sure this works. And then the new thing that all those data scientists want are APIs, application programming interfaces. And these things are so important for them to get the data quicker, to the point where we actually have right now scientists who have nothing to do with the design or the implementation or collecting, but they're using the API to collect millions of rows of data to do good data analysis and to make sure it's not changing, make sure there's no changes over time.
And that goes to integrity, right?
That's right. That quality data you expect. You want this hub of data to be straight and true.
So the other thing we ask EPA and FDA folks, and you guys can unmute if you want to chat about this, but how do you communicate it? So collecting it, managing, now we're going to get it out there. So paper reports, 35% still. Email, just flat out communication with email is 29%. Raw data with the spreadsheets, 41%. And then you talk about executive summaries. Most of us are involved in some of these too. We're taking this data, assembling an executive communication to say, this is what we see in this data, 53%. Now we have 37% that are using some sort of dashboard, which is awesome, right?
Yep.
And then everybody, just about everybody, is taking this information and saying, well, what does this mean to you, Jamie? What does this mean to you, Danny? What are you seeing? And doing the review meetings, making sure that you're tightening up the data. That's probably not going to change all that much. Would you agree that most of the time you're still going to have the dialogue?
That's right.
But having good data to be able to review all at the same time and know that the data is right?
That's right. That the quality data implies that if you do have anomalies or such, that you really have a reason to have good meetings, right? Because then the meetings can really be to address those outcomes.
And there's nothing worse than an unproductive meeting, at least for me. God bless me, I can't stand it.
Yeah, like one where we can't get someone to get online with us from San Antonio.
Yeah, like that. Hey, we're still trying. I just reached out to Daniel again, seeing if we're gonna be able to do that. Otherwise, now you know that's what happens. You do live, it's live. So let's talk about some of the advice that's coming down just for reporting.
Sure.
You want to have the templates that you don't have to rely on your IT people, right?
That's right. You want to be able to set in standard reporting concepts. So when people are looking at reports, they can quickly identify the key points, right? So reporting is actually another one of those requirements for a good tool, because 9 times out of 10, after I've designed it, I've executed a trial or a collection of data, and then I've given it to the people to collect it, chances are you're going to want to know either in an ad hoc way or on a very serial, repeated way. You want reports coming out, and you don't want people to get real creative either. And in fact, for us, the EPA likes, for instance, some of the reports that come from our sponsors in a standard format. So we actually generate that because that was a key requirement. Remember, we had scientists who were living in paperwork, and the reason they came out with our product was to get out from underneath that requirement.
And it's good for everybody, right? Because
That's right.
there's no way to be able, and this may not happen with the folks that are here, but there are certain scientists that like to elaborate.
That's right. That's right. There's people who want to be overly creative, and sometimes, especially with regulatory, you don't want too much creativity on some of this reporting.
And we don't want to squash. I saw somebody laughing.
Yeah,
we don't want to squash creativity per se, but we do want to minimize the amount of elaboration.
Selective.
We all agree that you're very smart scientific people.
That's right.
All right. So, all right, let's talk about real quick, just some advice that for being able to manage data, that the intersections that we're looking for here are what's important that's coming from NAICC that's important for the folks here at FDA and EPA. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so in this case, it's about the workflow. These are things that we build into our product. Our workflow is actually built into our product for scientists, and these crop consultants know. In fact, we're quite proud of the fact that a crop consultant in one state can do 4 different sponsors' collection of their trials or their tests, and they don't feel like there's anything different because they know we've used good scientific method. And that was, as we said, design, collect, report, and then repeat it, right? Because at one point, I'm not sure how many trials, but it's over in the thousands that we're running right now. In fact, I can't see I can't see our dashboard, but I actually write down how many people we have on it. And right now we're pretty busy actually getting ready for the upcoming season.
Awesome. Just real quick, some platform basics for if you're looking, this is in conjunction with other researchers to make sure that this works for you at EPA and
That's
FDA,
right. So
right?
If you're selecting a product, whether it's, whatever the product is, even if it's paper system, you want to put the challenges up to your vendors or to your consultants on how to get the right situation. And one of them, we believe, is to be cloud-based now. We made the move almost 4 years ago. It was a huge move for us, but it has made all the difference. And in fact, it's enabling us for more future. We don't even know the benefits we think that we're going to gain because we've gone to the cloud. It's web-based. We actually have it so that you can choose your platform as far as if you have a PC and you want to be web or native in Windows, or in our case, we could be native on an iPad. And we're even talking now about Androids and such like that. It's scalable. You can't have a case where all of a sudden you're going to have a lot more trials and it starts acting up. That's not allowed. And that's where the cloud helps us. Yep. We also want to be compliant with GLP and 21 CFR. You want immediate access. If a machine has hooked up to the internet, because in some cases iPads are out in the field that haven't been network attached for the last 2 hours, but as soon as it does, we're going to give you availability of that data.
So this is important because a lot of times now Starlink's changing the landscape completely, right?
Yeah.
However, even now, you still don't have 100% no matter what. So you have the ability to take that data and have it maintain its integrity,
That's right.
and then get that
Yeah.
reported. I think one of the most important things that you mentioned is the ability to see those results more of a real time, because then you'll be able to determine if there's something wrong with the study or the questions in the study early,
Right.
and make some corrections as well, right?
Right, because those people in the paper base are waiting for someone to probably fax it in or mail it in, and then be transcribed into the system. And that could be a lot of time. But if it is current, that means you learn from it as it goes too. And as a trial manager, you feel better when you know that there's progress made, there's activity going on.
So real quick, because this is one of the things that has direct intersection with what's happening in NAICC, right? So you have your data collection from multiple sources, and then you have multiple reports because EPA wants to see it one way, FDA wants to see it another way. Other stakeholders may have customized reports. Most people know what these are, because if there's a report that you're reading every day at EPA, it has to be in the format that you like, right? That's part of the process.
And some of these testing sites have to actually ship things over to an analytical lab to be like, they call them punch tests, where they take a part of a leaf. Well, those things have to be analyzed, and you want that data coordinated back into your system, into the eStudy platform, so it then can be reported on in time.
Yeah, and so when you think about the folks that are at NAICC right now, they're the sponsors that you mentioned earlier. This is happening every day with the big boys, right?
That's right. In fact, we're coming up to the new growing season. We're finishing out growing seasons in the world. But yes, every day that we're on is very timed out of collecting of that data into the cloud. These guys right now are taking this break right now because they're the US scientists out in the field. And they have this week, I guess this must be a magic week. They can all get together in San Antonio. But for them, it's a critical aspect of, they even know that their data is still building out there. Because if I looked at my dashboard, it would show that every day transactions or updates are being made to these trial records.
So, real quick, we want to get everybody out here in a couple minutes. I don't think we're going to be able to get Daniel on here. I'm not sure exactly what's happening, but I can't seem to get the communications working the way that we should. So, live is live. So you built this platform to utilize science, no matter what. Everybody should be following the scientific methodologies to be able to do the data collection, because
we even have data collection that's done by other industries, and we use the same methodology. Again, if you use this and you go through the concept of design and development, and then you end up with good data at the end. One of my best customers at a huge software company that does analysis of data says the one thing he's always known about us is that we provide quality data. And no matter what product you choose, you should always think, because we have so many products available that are ways to do it, whether it's Excel or whether it's Tableau. And I don't know if some of you guys online, I'd love to know what products you do use for data collection. But the bottom line is you have to use the same practices, because you cannot scale bad data. It's a waste.
And you mentioned AI earlier, and we've talked a little bit about that, joking that this is not AI.
No.
And AI has its functions and has its capacities to be able to help solve problems, some massive problems. However, that doesn't solve bad design.
That's right.
And scaling it is impossible. So if you, hey, Eric or Sheila, how do you do your data collection right now? How do you do it, Eric? Are you involved in data collection?
Yeah, in terms of our data collection, we really do it in a bunch of different ways. A lot of times it'll be loaded, let's say, from an application or a model into a spreadsheet or a CSV. Sometimes we'll do it just like you showed early in one of the earlier slides. Sometimes we'll get it from some kind of report or a journal article that, we'll curate and collate. Sometimes we might get it from a survey, and sometimes we'll just get it, from an individual or a group of individuals, let's say in a meeting type setting. So our data comes in a myriad of ways, at least on my end of the different research programs that my colleagues and I do.
And how much of a headache is bad data to you?
It's tremendous. Most of the time is spent reviewing the data, eyeballing it, and cleaning it. That takes probably about 80% of the time. And let's say if you're going to run some sort of algorithm or numeric procedure or model on it, that only takes about 20% of the time. Most of it is getting data that somehow needs to be reviewed. And some people don't think of it in that way, and they will take the data as is and run it, into their processes and into their models, and then they wonder why, yeah, this really doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell you, man, you're not the only one, brother. That's all I know.
Mhm. Absolutely.
We're all in it together and trying to solve the problems, I think. And so, Sheila, what's your experience? Are you doing data collection as well?
Well, I'm collecting data that comes out of labs. So I'm in analytical services.
Mhm.
And so that is the same. That is my job currently, is a data reviewer. And it takes, and I hate kicking things back and saying, hey, what happened here? What happened here? This information is missing. Can you please explain? And so one of the things I'm trying to push is that for the people to collect data, that they need to start reviewing so they know how it feels, so they can see our perspective on what it looks like. Like when you're out there, here's what we need from you.
Right.
Nothing like walking in your shoes for a little bit,
Yeah,
right, Sheila?
just so that they can have an understanding. So I think a lot of times it's just not knowing what's needed. And so that's where your software comes in, where it has to force that person to put in certain data that you need. So if you can create something that makes sure
Right.
at least meets the basic check marks of I need at least this minimum amount of data,
Right.
that way it's useful.
And you
We,
would
we
think,
actually do one step more, Sheila. We sometimes make them sign in order to say that not only am I changing this data to an outbound result, we also make them sign in and say that it happened, just so we have an audit of it.
Yes, that's important also, is to track all the changes, correct?
Yes, yes.
and some of that, Sheila, right, is just human error, right? And then other parts are maybe, I don't know about you, but every once in a while somebody wants to cover their booty a little bit, maybe.
Well,
Yes, especially if there's a lot of pressure and people have the pressure of like, oh, I need to hurry up and get this done, and they'll take shortcuts.
right.
That can happen probably more so in private than it does in government. Just, I can't say that 100%, but in
Mhm.
my experience in private, there's a lot more of that pressure than there is in government to falsify
Yeah.
or
And
cheat or whatever.
yeah, cheat. I mean, and we, depend. I think you nailed it, and that is that pressure. The pressure shouldn't create the dynamic for cheating, for the ability to cheat, right? Wouldn't you say that would be a good idea, is to not create
Yeah.
the place to force it to work the way it's supposed to, I guess is what we're saying. So I appreciate that very much, guys. We do want to get you out of here. When I started this, I mentioned that you're under no obligation to buy from anybody. However, if you would like to check out things from iAdvantage software, they actually have a GSA contract, don't you, Jamie?
Yeah, that's right. We're all ready.
All ready to go. So please feel free to continue the conversation. Jamie will reach out and we'll make sure you get the follow-ups. In fact, you'll get a recap email early next week. You should get one with this video as well as some additional information if you'd like to keep the conversation going. And we're going to throw Daniel under the bus for not being able to get on here live. But Daniel, we'll make sure that you get some more information from Daniel as well. We'll do a recap for you guys so that you get the latest data from NAICC. But Jamie, man, good pinch hitting for
You bet. You
so,
bet. I love talking about this stuff. So yeah,
oh, it's awesome, man. You
I
did a great
appreciate you
job.
guys' time. I appreciate the fact that you broke up your day to listen with us.
Yeah, man.
Well, thanks for sharing. Think this is really interesting, so I appreciate it.
You bet, Sheila. Thanks for joining us, and Eric, you too, man.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for letting us just throw you right out there, making it live. So, and for anybody else that's here, feel free to reach out to Jamie or Daniel. You can beat on Daniel for not showing up here.
Yeah, do that. That would be fun.
So, otherwise, we'll get you out of here. Thanks again for joining us, Jamie. Great job.
Thanks so much, everybody.
See you guys.